Forget about that one. And you keep them coming in. You're doing well, son.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
I want to make it clear that the views expressed by our hosts are not considered the official stance of MBR Views. Remember, this is all about having fun and enjoying the ride.
Welcome to the show. Everyone's expecting. If you know that well, you know. Do as I say, not as I do. Welcome, friends, you know. Unity in all that
Hey, welcome everybody to Drunk Dudes in a Gun Room. This show is brought to you by Operation Encore. Operation Encore is a 501c nonprofit. They help veterans transition into music icons. So check them out at operationencore.org. Give them a like and a follow. And if you can, hit that little donate button and help them. Hey, today we have got an amazing guest. I honestly think she is the first person that teaches defense and has tactical gear that has came on this show. And I've sent out a lot of requests to a lot of these companies that to come on and talk about their company. And I believe Jen Stollar is the first one from Longhorn Tactical Defense. Hey, how's it going, Jen?
How are you?
Good. So give everybody a little quick background about you and what you do and all that good sort of stuff.
Yeah, so my name is Jennifer Stollar. I am the co-owner, CEO of Longhorn Tactical and Defense Ltd. We are an currently online distributor of tactical gear, training, survival products, and also preparedness. I grew up in the Midwest and ultimately, short version, was the child of an active shooter. And so grew up foster care, went to the military after that. And I started a couple companies. This is one of them. And I really felt a need in this day and age we're living in to have a company that people could feel safe and confident purchasing from and partnering with. To really be in a place where they're prepared for the world that we live in today.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important. I mean, I'll just be honest. My family, I'm here in Missouri. My family is in Georgia, and usually we get a pretty good idea of hurricanes where we're at. And we all went to bed last night. Supposed to be a tropical storm. Woke up, it turned out to be a category 4 in Florida. And by the time it reached us, it was still a 2, and by that time everything's closed, so being prepared is more than just being, a tinfoil hat conspiracy person. It's just about in general, being prepared for things that could happen, so yeah, I think that's extremely important.
I tell people all the time, I say, look, you can go get prepared for the crazy revolutionary war-ending EMP scenarios that are out there, right? But then you got to think about these common everyday things that happen: hurricanes in the panhandles, wildfires in the West Coast, severe snowstorms in the north that knock out powers for lengthy periods of time. And imagine if you found yourself in a situation where, one, you had the training and the tools to get out beforehand, or two, if you found yourself in a situation where afterwards you were stuck, you had the supplies that you need and you weren't reliant on the government to save you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Look, that's right there is what you just said. That last part is the key. If you are relying on the government, you are already in trouble. Because I'm going to
I think it was Ronald Reagan who said the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
Yeah, you are absolutely right. He did say that. Yep.
Mhm.
So, what made you decide to go in the military?
So I grew up in foster care. So I went into foster care about 3 years old, and lived in 35 different foster homes. Very much so grew up in the government system. And when I was 12, I kind of had like that whole like. Do you remember the movie Angels in the Outfield with Danny Glover?
Yep.
Do you remember when the kid would stare up out the window every night, like praying to go home?
Yep.
I did that. Like I wanted to go home to mom, you know. Unfortunately, when I turned 12, my mom walked into Walmart, shot several people. Police shot my mom 22 times. And so, excuse me, statistically, foster kids generally age out of the system, and they either end up dead in jail or in an institution. And I really wanted to destroy that. So around 14, I started hitting libraries. It's kind of like a modern day Matilda. I would read any book I could get my hand on. And so I came across some things I was really passionate about, and that was survival. And I think that's part of, you know, because I grew up in a very survivalist fight or flight environment, I really started to latch onto that. And then I also latched on to the paranormal. And I think that's because I understood there was evil in the world. And so around 17, I went to my last foster home, and I was sitting in a school cafeteria, and the recruiters did the atypical come to the high school thing. And I went, I'm going to do that. And that day after school, I was still, I think I was 15 or 16 at the time. And maybe 17 was a little too much, 15 or 16. That day after school, I went into the recruiting office. I was like, how do I join the Army? They're like, you're too young. So at 15, 16, I actually went with the delayed entry program. Like I had a year and a half. I had completed the entire delayed entry program checklist before I even left for boot camp. I had been promoted to PFC. By the time I made it out of boot camp, I was already a specialist. Like I had really put in some work to accomplish the goals that the Army sets for their delayed entry program. I even got somebody to enlist with me. So I think that was really, it was just like, I think somewhat the universe had steered me that direction, but it was really, I think, wanting to go from being a fight or flight survivalist mentality my entire childhood to like, let me go, not to sound cliche, go be a hero. Like, let me be someone's hero. Let me learn to be a hero. Let me learn to help people. And I very much so still at almost 35 have a desire to help people.
Yeah. Oh, you could tell, you know, just when we were talking before the show, you know, some of the certificates you were talking about, you know, people don't go get those certificates for money, you know, it's
Right.
because they want to learn and be able to help.
Right.
And as far as the foster care goes, you know, I wasn't in the foster care system, but my parents were foster parents. So we had foster, you know, kids that, just like you were saying, came in and gone all the time. You know, at one point we had 9 foster girls. I was the only boy in the house, and then there was other times where it was all boys. And so I mean, I got a different side of it. I got a wide range of, you know, personalities that was constantly around me, you know. And so on this side, it was actually good because I was an only child, and it allowed me to learn different things and different perspectives. And I grew up in a very small town, so you know, it's real easy when you live in a town that's got like less than 1,000 people to think that the world is peachy and great.
Yep.
But
It's true though.
yeah. And at that young of an age, I got to see that, you know, not everybody was lucky and living that peachy life, you know. So
Yep.
I completely do understand. And you are right. You know, the system is extremely broke, and it is not there for the benefit. It's just there to say that we've got a system in place.
And it's very true. I actually wrote a book recently called Fostering Gray about 2 years ago, which is all about that broke ass system.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
You know, we've seen a lot of things, and it goes on both sides too. You know, the foster parents themselves, you know, the ones that are volunteering and doing it. Well, I say volunteering, they get paid, but the payment's just really to take care of the kids is what it's supposed to be.
yeah.
And you know, that system is not even there to support them either, you know.
Here's the real problem, Don. and I'm just gonna cut like straight through the bullshit. The foster care, and I'm sure there's gonna be some people who watch this that go, yes, this. The foster care system is the largest form of human trafficking on the planet. 400,000 kids a year are trafficked. So many go missing. I witnessed it as a kid. It's a system that is so beyond broke, right? That kids go missing. If you start Googling the reports of foster kids that have gone missing, and I witnessed this as a kid, the constant abuse. The problem is that, and I've seen it firsthand, they rip kids out of sometimes a good home, put them into a horrible foster home where they're abused even further. And then the funding's not there. The training's not there. They take these kids from a therapeutic foster kid or a regular foster kid, turn them into a therapeutic foster kid because they get more money for him, put them on all these medications, pump them full of all these drugs. It does even more damage to the kid. The vast majority of the foster care system is an absolute atrocity. And I would venture to calculate the percentage of kids that go missing in the foster care system is through the roof, a lot higher than anyone even realizes. And I really want to draw light to that. Like you hit the nail on the head. The system very much so is we have a system, but nobody really understands how it works because social workers, by and large, have been put in a place where they're untouchable. They can come rip your kids from you, and then you have no recourse but a courtroom.
Yep. And they're not going to side on you, you know.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's not uncommon, man. You know, as a foster parent, when you call and say, hey, you know, the child that you gave me ran away, they're just like, okay.
Yep.
You know, I mean, it's like everyday conversation, you know.
I ran away from foster homes at least a dozen times, at least. I remember at like 11 sleeping on a park bench when it was like -20 in Illinois. Because the alternative was being locked in a room with nothing in it, literally nothing in it. And I ran away, and it was funny. I ran away to school. I slept on a park bench overnight. I froze. I remember actually contemplating breaking into someone's car to get a coat because I saw a coat in a car. I'm a child. Like no child should have to live like that. And I ended up right before the sun came up, running to school, hiding behind the bushes in front of the school. And when school opened, I went to that one teacher I knew I trusted and said, I'm in an abusive foster home. I need help.
That's good. Yeah, absolutely. You know,
yeah.
And I've seen it too. You know, we came across, you know, you go to the meetings and those other parents, and they seem so normal. And then all of a sudden, something happens and that skeleton comes leaping out of the closet. You're like, holy shit, I didn't know they were like that. You know,
and there's great foster parents out there. Don't get me wrong, but they are not supported. Those ones are not highlighted and supported the way they need to be.
And that's when I said, you know, there's no support for the parents either. The ones that really do care.
Yep. And believe me, so I had a set of foster parents still to this day. I'll say their name because I'm not bad to say. I've always kind of kept the names hush hush, but Allison and Brent, it was one of my first foster homes I ever moved into. And even at 35, I still wish like something in my path had worked that they could have adopted me, because some of the most highlight moments of growing up in foster care were in that home. They truly did it for the right reasons.
Yeah. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how long do you say you were in the military?
So I was in the military for a couple of years. I went in and then I had a break in service and then I went back in. I was 12 November horizontal engineer.
Okay. So was that where your passion for, I mean, did you come out of that thinking that you were going to open up a business like this, or how did Longhorn Tactical come about?
So kind of started around 17, 18. I actually had joined voluntarily a county office of emergency management. Also, as much as I talk about the horrors of what happened with my mother, first responder is in my blood. My parents were first responders. And so I kind of had like this desire to serve the community. And so around 17 or 18, I signed up to join Office of Emergency Management. And it was kind of my first exposure to the government system. And I'm not going to lie. I did something I wasn't supposed to do. And I think I was there for about a year. I did something I wasn't supposed to do. The chief of the emergency management agency called me in and he said, hey, I'm going to have to let you go. Like, and I was in tears, like, thinking my life's over. I'm 19, but that was kind of like my first exposure. And so one thing they really did was they put an emphasis on training. And so I knew like right away, okay, like train, right? Maintain your equipment. Like that was something that started getting drilled into me between the Army and this volunteer work. And so, so from there, going into the military, doing that, I kind of started to gain that proficiency with weapon systems, got to go to some schools. I hate to say it, I was definitely like one of those high speed, low drag kind of service members. Like, I'm like, everybody joked I was high speed. Like if there was a school, I was the first hand in the air. Like I want to go to this school. So I got to pick up a lot of extra things that people necessarily didn't get to do. And so I kind of started to gain this knowledge and this understanding of different things that began to kind of mold LTD. So we went from, the learning some search and rescue fundamentals and the traffic control fundamentals to the military, to stepping out of the military and going back to school. I joined a volunteer fire department and walked from that with, my FEMA basic certifications, my firearm basics, firefighter basics. And so I really started to get a solid foundation of what I needed to understand the industry and more importantly, and I always talk about this, like you can sell anything you want, but do you know the language, right? And so, well, if there's an active shooter, a bunch of cops get together. Okay, what is that called? It's called an incident command, right? Like it's where everybody comes together. You got to learn the language. Your RTFs, your response teams, right? And there's so much that goes into understanding the language of this before you put armor on these guys. You got to understand why you're doing it, right? Yeah. And so I really started to go to school. I even took it as far as with my mom's story, I wanted to become an active shooter response instructor. I went and did that through both FEMA and Texas State University, Texas A&M. Became a certified instructor in active shooter response. But then I took it a step further. I went and took the 911 course, the dispatcher's course, right? I'm not a 911 dispatcher, but I learned their language, right? There's a component of this active shooter response that includes a dispatcher. And now I understand what a dispatcher needs to do on top of what is going to happen on ground zero of this incident, right? Mm-hmm. And so, or how they need to think, how they need to be sitting there gathering information, looking for like pieces of information, whether the information's active or not, if it's needed or not, right? You got 100 people calling 911, not everyone you're going to have time to talk to. You need to gather as much information as you can. And so I learned all of those components, right? And so as I've kind of grown this, I not only learned the government's language, but I also learned to pick up these other skills and these other tools that I realized I could turn around and start offering this to people. I could say, we can teach you how to be prepared, and then we can give you the stuff to do it. So, for example, I'll go in and teach a Stop the Bleed class at a business, and then I'll go, by the way, I sell the products. Not only do I teach you the class in Stopping the Bleed, but I sell the Stop the Bleed products, and I do it on an individual to an industrial level. And so I was kind of mentioning before that we've got, access to 15,000 different products. We have industrial warehouse size Stop the Bleed stations. They're not on our website, but I sell them. We're not going to sell them to the average person, but for a business, this is great, and so bringing all of these pieces together, LTD has slowly molded from armor and training to gear, and now we've just recently changed our motto to prepared, trained, ready for life. So we're prepared in general, we're trained, we have the training, and I put training strategically at the top of our logo, first thing you see when you look at it. And then we're ready. We get prepared, we get trained, we're ready, right? Now we're ready for life.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You know, it seems like, talking to you, it seems like your situation with your mom has kind of also pushed you into this as well. You know,
Okay, very much so.
yeah, I mean, yeah, you could definitely tell, and it makes sense because, you know, I don't know how long ago it was when that happened, but you know, you go back to early in my military career, you know, active shooters, what the hell is that? Nobody, you know,
Right.
nobody ever even talked about it. You didn't see it. And maybe partially is because, you know, we were still reading newspapers and watching news at night on TV, but you know, the social media aspect wasn't there. But
Mhm.
yeah, you don't see, you didn't see it, you didn't hear about it, you know, and these last, I don't know, 6, 7 years, 8 years, it's became, you know, a necessity. I mean, it's created a necessity for businesses like yourself to
Yeah.
be able to teach people because, yeah, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of teachers out there that need to know um, about what to do if there's a shooter in their school. You know,
Right.
even the teachers don't know.
Yeah.
And
Well, and that's another frustration for another day, but funding is a big issue for all of that, for
it is.
sure.
Yep.
And we're now moving from a scenario too, Don, where we're not so much putting an emphasis on active shooter anymore, but rather active attacker, because we've gone from just systematically the vast majority of these events being shootings to now they're running people over with cars, right? There's other things that are starting to play into this that we're now starting to teach this as an active attacker scenario versus an active shooter.
Yeah, I mean, let me ask you this: do you think do you think it came in this order? Do you think um, the mental health crisis, the drug problems that's going through, you know, and I'm not talking about weed or alcohol. I'm talking about, you know, mind altering drugs. And then years goes by, and now we've filled America full of this. And now, I mean, you have to admit it. There's definitely a mental health crisis in America,
No
and
question.
nobody wants to spend the money to fix it because it's not profitable, unless
So
you're big.
let me say this. I'm just going to cut straight to the chase on this. Here's the problem with the mental health system, all right? And I watched this growing up with my mom. All right. So let's say you called right now a suicide prevention hotline and you said, hey, I'm suicidal. They're going to send an ambulance to your house. All
Yep.
right. They're going to pick you up. They're going to take you to the hospital. The first thing they're going to do is strip you naked, lock you in some room that you can't get out of. Now, if you're suicidal because you were just recently raped, that's not a good thing, because the last thing you want to do is get naked in front of people. Now you go in this room, you're immediately emotionally cut off. You're even more traumatized than when you called 911 for help. You have an ER that's disconnected because they don't get the mental health training that mental health gets, right? They don't know how to cope with you. They want you out of their ER. You get to mental health. You're already emotionally damaged. You don't want to talk to anyone. You spend 7 days there to go home, feel like you accomplished nothing. They say, go follow up with a therapist. If you're an alcoholic, you're in sobriety or anything like that, you have a relapse, you struggle to get in the door, you can spend 2 to 3 weeks getting insurance to even approve kind of treatment. The reality of it is yet again, we're talking about a whole nother system of here's the system, but it doesn't really work. And so you have a lot of people like myself. I'm not going to sit here. I have mental health. We all do, right? I choose not to engage with mental health professionals on any level because I've come to a point that I realized I can't trust them. And so you have a whole system of mental health that is really struggling, right? And you have people that are passionate, but then the other component to this is that we live in a world of push politics. And the truth is that you have people pushing LGBTQ narratives. You have a community of people there that are already struggling with mental health, that are having George Soros funded agendas paid for and shoved down their throat. Folks who truly are those people are not getting the support they actually need. And here's a shining example. The percent of transgender people that get killed every year is astronomical. The percentage of homeless LGBTQ people is off the charts. The percentage of homeless veterans is off the charts. Let's just cut straight to the chase on the whole thing and talk about the real reality of the fact that we sent $80 billion to Ukraine, yet we have 300,000 homeless veterans all struggling with mental health and homelessness. Make it make sense. And so, yes, we have a very real mental health problem. And then we have a government who's bringing in drugs, funneling them. We have police officers who are arresting people for using the drugs. Ironic, right? The government brings it in, the government arrests you, and then they don't get support. They don't get help. Then things like my mom happen, right? So my mom ended up on drugs because of an accident, right? And it caused her mental health. She ended up on cocaine, ended up with schizophrenia, right? Whole 9 yards of problems that originated from the fact that she couldn't get the healthcare she needed.
Yep.
And I'm going to call it like I see it.
Yep. And that's exactly what I was getting at is it seems like a chain of reaction that has put us in a situation where businesses like you are needed, you know, and it's not about, you know, a lot of people picture your business, because I know we were talking before about you're getting banned on different social medias, and a lot of people have the wrong picture. You know, this is not tinfoil hat stuff. This is training, literally, like you said. The top of your motto is training, and you can't be prepared. You can't defend yourself. You know. And there's things that you may not need to teach the average civilian. And then there's things that maybe businesses might want you to teach their security department, you know?
Absolutely.
And those are different levels. So everybody thinks that we're talking about training people, civilians, and arming them with AR-15s and clearing houses and just doing crazy shit. And that's not it at all, you know?
Hey, I don't find myself on Friday night out on some back 40 doing a tape house with red lights in the dark. Okay.
but that's the picture from that people think, you know?
Yeah.
And when you hear these two words mixed together, you know, me and my son took a gun safety course. Instantly they're like, you're letting your kid fire guns? What kind of parent are you?
Well, and here's the reality, Don. I mean, you just think back 30 or 40 years ago, every high school, you know, there's pickup trucks with shotguns and the rifles in the back window. The reality of it is that child firearms safety and fundamentals is the biggest farce I've ever heard, because I shot my first gun at 3 or 4 years old. Right. Yeah. I understood from an early age that that weapon was not a toy. It's a deadly weapon. It's like touching the stove. That curiosity for me at a young age was removed by my grandfather teaching me that, right, and showing me the gun, and I knew better than to touch that, right, and so I one of my favorite things I love to hear, and I'm sure there's gonna be someone who watches this that goes, "Wow, she's crazy." If you have children in your home, you shouldn't have a loaded gun in the nightstand under lock and key. If someone breaks into your home at 2 a.m., the average attacker moves through a home 11 feet every 3 seconds. By the time you wake up, the fine motor skills start to come back together. You open that nightstand drawer, you figure out the biometrics, handprint, finger, thumb, whatever you've got. You open that, you lock and load, you rack around, and you start to figure out what's going on. That dude's already moved a good, 3-4 rooms through your house.
Yeah.
And I hear parents say, well, I don't have a loaded gun in my house because there's a child. I got an idea. How about we teach the child these aren't a toy? We buy a gun that has a safety because you have a child in the house. You keep that weapon on amber versus red, right? We eliminate some of the possibilities, right?
Yep.
But the reality of it is that the truth of the matter is as far back as our founding fathers, even if you go watch the movie The Patriot, Mel Gibson tells his boys, grab these rifles. They know as children, right? We've removed that out of liberal fear.
Yep.
And that's what it is. I'm going to call it exactly what it is. Liberal fear.
Yeah.
Democrat-run agendas. But remember, you have Sheila Jackson, who thinks an AR-15 weighs as much as 10 moving boxes you might be moving. End quote.
Well, think about this, right? So we take our kids and we put them through school with driving classes. Then as parents, we teach our kids to drive.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is what we're really doing at this point is now we are teaching our kids to operate a 2,000-pound weapon.
Yep. Yep.
That there's no difference.
Nope.
You know?
Nope. And here's the crazy part. That's a distracted missile is what it is.
It is.
Because they're on their phone, they're combing their hair, they're joking with their friends, they're changing the radio station. And this is why in the first responder community, getting back to those little pieces of paper, we have something called struck bys. This is why first responders, tow truck drivers, and folks like that end up dead because, you know, we put a 16-year-old behind the weight of that 2,000 to 3,000 pound missile. They get on their phone or whatever, and next thing you know, they've hit a police officer on the side of the road. So yes, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, and it goes back to training and preparedness, you know, and all that comes to play when you start talking about kids and guns, you know. And I do agree with you in one aspect. You know, it's one thing to lock up your rifles and stuff in the back, but that's not those are not your self-defense weapons, you know. And you know, if you have a shotgun that you use for home defense or a pistol, if you lock it in a safe somewhere, absolutely, you put yourself at risk and you put your family at risk. And I think you put yourself at more of a risk than you do by having a trained kid who knows not to play with the gun.
Yep, exactly. I had recently a friend over, extremely he's not liberal, but he's not a big fan of guns. And he was over for dinner and he said, I can't believe he had his daughter over and I know her pretty well. And I've always told her you don't touch guns when you're in my house. And so he's like, it really makes me nervous when I come over and you got all these guns laying around. And so I said to her, I says, hey, will you go get one of those guns for Miss Jen? No, I can't touch that. She's 4, you know, but she's learned by being with me over the years. Those are my guns. Those are not a toy. We don't touch them.
Yep.
So.
Absolutely. So what is the biggest thing that customers come to you guys for? What is your big seller, your big classes that you see a lot?
So the thing that I sell the most of is our helmet, which we've tested beyond NIJ compliance. And then also SRT and AR600 body armor. Those are kind of our 3 biggest ticket items that kind of roll out the door. We're starting to get into a place now where people are actually, you know, buying some preparedness products with us on a larger scale. And then we get a lot of people that really just want to window shop our tactical walls and our tactical builds and things of that nature. And then as for classes, we're getting a lot of people. Our biggest margin of classes right now is that first time I see where the world is going. I've never owned a gun until today. I went and bought a gun, didn't know anything. I just picked one. Here, I want that one. And I wanted to take a class, you know? I'm like, okay, first off, you shouldn't buy a gun just to buy a gun. You should hold it, make sure you're comfortable holding it, make sure something happens with it. Go rent some guns, find out which one you like, you know, hire an instructor to be there with you. You know, it's that first time gun owner really right now, or those people with very little training who, with just the way the world is, are really looking to expand on the confidence because they don't want to carry out in public. And so they're trying to really get to a place where they feel good to do that.
Yeah. And I think you should always have that fear, you know, you should always have that awareness that, hey, I am carrying a gun and I'm aware of, you know, am I imprinting or am I, you know, bending over and people are seeing it? Because that's not the point. If you don't want to be out there showing it off, so you should always. Okay, well, the average person that's not looking for that attention, then they, you know.
I'm going to tell you, for me, it's not about attention. I'm a huge open carry advocate. And I know there's so many, listen, I know there's people who say that's so stupid, you make yourself a target and all this, that, and the other. Number one, I typically don't go into overly populated areas.
Right.
You're not going to find me in Walmart. You're not going to find me in Target. With my backstory, I choose to use Instacart. All right. And besides, I'm helping someone who's trying to make a side hustle anyways, make a couple extra bucks by doing my grocery shopping for me. The other side of this is that I'm a firm believer in there's a certain level of deterrence, right? And there's a logic behind it. If you walk into a place with bad intentions and there's 4 people sitting at a table, all open carrying, they're wearing suits, what's the first thing that goes through your mind? Detectives, police, right?
Yep.
Are you more likely to move to a softer target?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Now here am I with the background I have, and I'm carrying, I'm open carrying. If I'm in a smaller establishment, are you more prone? One, I don't stand, in the middle of a room. I've generally got my back. I'm pretty observant. So are you more prone to maybe move on to a softer target? Right. And again, I know I'm not invincible, but the other side of that is I have disabilities, right? So concealed carry holsters, things like that make me kind of uncomfortable with my disabilities. And so I like to kind of rest. One of my hearing is hearing. And so I like to rest my arm on the beaver's tail of my weapon if I'm standing around or what have you. And so I also have issues with my back and things like that. So when I'm home in Arizona, I tend to actually wear a drop leg holster because with my arms, and I've got steel in both of my arms, there's a lot of things that play into it for me, but I've become an open carry advocate. And what I've noticed is that people generally have been very receptive to that where I've been. But I also live in a place, and this is the important part, I live in places where that's normal, right? I live in Texas where walking down the street with an AR-15 on your back is perfectly legal. I live in Arizona where we blow things up on the side of mountains with tannerite, right? So
Tannerite is fun.
Context is huge, right? If I was living in Washington State, I'm probably not going to do that, right? I still conceal carry when it's applicable, but I really do try to open carry as much as possible.
Yeah, and that's the same with with me. I kind of switched to a pocket holster just because I'm getting fat, and a little 380 is a lot easier to carry in a pocket than it is. And summertime, with shorts and stuff like that. And some of it too is just being comfortable,
Right.
knowing that if something happened, I'm at least prepared, and I go out in the woods a lot. There's a lot of times I'll just see a road and, hey, let me go down here. And next thing I know, I'm walking around looking for deer. So having a gun for snakes and shit like that too, makes sense for me. I live here in the Ozarks, so it's, it's all about the wood life out here. But, so I think, like you said, it starts at the early points. The person going in to buy that gun really should sit down and learn, when you pull that trigger, how does it work? What does the hammer do? What are the parts called? What is the safety? What is proper technique for carrying, and all that stuff before you should even go looking at buying guns. And then after you learn that stuff, like you said, take that same instructor, go and rent several guns and fill out what you like, sit down and come up with a plan on what it is that you want for it. And I think unfortunately there's not enough businesses that promote that,
No.
and I ain't gonna say that they don't promote it. They have a hard time getting that information out because so many places block them and algorithms control it,
Here's the other problem. I've had people call me, and I don't want to start a controversy on your podcast, but one thing that really frustrates me is when customers call me and they say, I went to a gun store and got a cold shoulder. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And one thing I've really been known for, especially with our customers, is patience and understanding, standing there right there with them, sliding adjusting the slide, walking them through, putting my finger on the rear side aperture so they can look through and see the front side aperture and see how it's supposed to be. Like, I'm very patient, right? And that's one thing that I've tried to offer, those extra pieces where, traditionally gun stores, they're the experts on guns. I'm not even going to try. I know there's a lot of gun stores out there that, listen, I'm here to sell you a gun. I'm not here to train you how to use it. And this is a 9mm. This is like the, feet per second on this bullet. This is right. All, what I'm talking about. And their world isn't the, comfy, cozy,
Right.
And so I've really tried to move into a place where we offer that. And we say, look, the gun shops are like that because of the ATF. They're like that because of all the things they've got to compete with. This is where you get the comfy cozy,
And
So.
and that's kind of exactly my point, is that's when people decide, hey, my house has been broken into, the neighbor's house has been broken into. I think maybe we need to get a gun.
Yeah.
Once that goes through your mind, find a business like you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that's listening, find a business like you guys and get some classes, get some information, sit down with them and learn. There's other things that you may need besides a gun.
Yep.
You guys are full range. There's a lot of things that you can do to just increase the security of your house.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it's not always about having the bigger weapon. It's about having the bigger appearance. Don't look like that soft target, and you'll have a lot less incidents.
Yep.
So
and that's really my whole motto, is be a big personality. Like, don't look weak.
Yep, absolutely. So let me ask you: is the American AF, is that a line, or is that just your guys' overall motto? Is that like a line?
So I started American as fuck, the American AF, as a product line. I wanted to launch with all the anti-American. I love when I hear people say we're a democracy. No, we're not. We're a constitutional republic. Get it right. With all of the anti-American rhetoric that's out there, there's no other companies doing this. And I wanted to go, LTD is American as fuck. We are the most American motherfucker. I just wanted to scream it from the rooftops, and I wanted people to be proud. I wanted to give something, you go buy an American as fuck flag and you fly that proudly, and I'm American as fuck. It was an idea. It was a George Washington level of patriotism. I am truly at my core American as fuck. It was really about trying to reinstill some of that pride unbiasedly in a world where it's being shut down, shoved away, hated on. I had this big goal of launching American as fuck, and because who have you seen do that, right? And so that was the idea behind it, was can we be unapologetically American as fuck, right?
Yeah.
It was about, really for me, about bringing people together. It was about, it's that 9/12/01 energy, right? That's really what it was for me. And so it was a whole line. We did t-shirts, we did flags, we launched billboards, ad campaigns, and almost immediately within 24 hours, all of it was shut down by progressives.
Wow.
Yeah. We were thrown off over 100 billboards across the country along the highways. We were thrown off Google ads, thrown off Facebook ads, banned off TikTok. It was just, we were, for being American as fuck. What kind of dystopian nightmare are we living in?
Yeah. Wow. it is sad too. It really is. You know, the histories that are being taught are being changed. You know, we're now no longer, what is it? It's not Fort Bragg, it's Fort Liberty or whatever. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. You ever seen that show Idiocracy?
Mm-mm.
Okay, it's about the fact that people over the years just became dumber and dumber and dumber, all the way to the point to where they were about to die because they didn't know you anymore. The food that you're growing required water, you
Yep.
know. And I really feel like that, you know, that movie is supposed to be comedy, but I think it was like a future biography because
Okay.
it feels that way. It feels like we're living that right now.
I mean, very 1984 George Orwellian, you know. That's very much so like the whole basis of why we did it. Like literally was to like wake people up and like bring people together and like, you know, try to really
No. Hopefully
we're back.
All right, there you go.
My company will never be somebody's safe space. That's not going to happen. LTD is not a safe space. We're not going to promote your. I have gay people who work for me. I've got straight people who work for me. I've got gun freaks, and I've got my adopted brother is extremely liberal. All right, my adopted brother. Our family get-togethers are right. Extremely liberal, and so. Like, I'm not a hateful person. I don't discriminate, but like, I am not your safe place, right? I am not going to push your narratives. I'm not going to buy your agendas. I'm not going to support globalism and totalitarianism and communism. And we are not your safe place. We are American as fuck.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that line, you know. And you say you guys sell flags. I need to get that flag.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we have American as fuck flag on our website under categories. There is an American as fuck flag. So
absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, Joel.
So let's tell everybody a little bit about where they can go to sign up for classes if they wanted, where they can go to purchase stuff. I've been playing y'all's website down here, but what's the best way for them to shop with y'all?
So what I have here, www.ltdefense.shop is a direct site. So I've had many people go, what's with the .shop.com? When we started our website and started our company, we started with .com. As we've grown, some of the things, and again, going back to what you and I were talking about listening to our customers, one thing that we really heard was payment plans. We heard good quality customer service, people that actually answer the phone. So we switched to .shop, and that allowed us to have afterpay, payment plans, layaway, a lot more features that we didn't have with .com. We turned .com into a wholesaler site for dealers. If you're a gun shop or anybody who wants to sell our gear or partner with us, you can sign up for that. .shop is for our customers. And that is a one-stop shop location for, we're adding in a new page for tactical walls, vehicle builds. All of that stuff happens in Arizona. Firearms classes, things like that. If you're looking for active shooter classes, if you're looking for stop the bleed training, if you're looking for us to come out and teach a gun class in another state, I'll gladly do that. We are, USCCA partners. I have no problem traveling. We discuss those with clients all the time. I recently went to Florida and trained for a day with the militia. And so I have no problem doing that. But our primary focus for our training is in Arizona. And then our online shop, we ship, and I say this conservatively, we ship nationwide. There are some restrictions on shipping. So all of our products we can ship in all 50 states except body armor. The city of Chicago has good old Beetlejuice implemented a policy up there that they can't own body armor within city limits. The state of Connecticut and the state of New York have in-person regulations, and it's also very specific about who. So we do not ship to those places. I've had people say, I live in California, can I own armor? Yes. Fortunately, they have not outlawed your self-defense in California yet. It's coming, but So we do ship nationwide. Anything else, I'll go to all 50 states. We don't ship to Canada. I've had people say, do you ship to Canada? Unfortunately, due to ITAR laws and things like that, we don't. And I'm not a big enough animal to get into the legality of that, make sure it's done right. So I just stay within the US. And so on our website, under our training, you can see some of our training options. I do offer virtual training if you call us and you've got a big enough group. I'll do a virtual training for some stuff. And then our new tabs under installs, we do tactical vehicle installs. If you've seen some of our social media, we've got some pretty cool trucks. We've recently going to be adding in our tactical walls. We do tactical walls. My primary focus for that is going to be Texas and Arizona in the surrounding regional states. But if somebody wants to pay me to drive up to Minnesota to install a 10-foot tactical wall in their gun room, I'll do it. We've got some pretty wicked tactical walls. Also, on our website, we have a really robust layaway option. It's very stiff because we offer afterpay, but there are some options for folks who are looking to get prepared. I've had people go on our website and say, well, all I see is this item or that item. Under categories, we've got the whole array of things from a scope for a rifle all the way through $10,000 in storable food. If there's something that you want that you don't see on our website, we have on our partners, you can see some of our partners, we've actually got big relationships with household names in the tactical and survival industry. We've got access to nearly 15,000 additional products at the drop of a hat. Generally, my shipping time is 14 days for just about anything, which right now is pretty unheard of. So, but I had a guy that was looking for something last week. He couldn't find it anywhere. Everybody was telling him it was going to be 3 months. I said, let me make a phone call. And I had it for him same day. I said, dude, I can have it to you tomorrow, direct ship from the manufacturer. Like, here's my cost. And it was just, hey man, do you got one of these on the back shelf somewhere? Let me go look, it's the last one, it's a Condor battle belt. That's what it was. Okay. Guy was looking for it. He couldn't find it anywhere. And he called me. He said, hey, I've heard you're the go-to. Can you find this person? And I said, give me a couple hours to see what I can do. And sure enough, I got a buddy over at Condor. He went in the back, buried through their warehouse and found one. So yeah, I've got some relationships to get additional items that we don't have listed on our website.
Well, that's awesome, and just us talking, there's already been a couple items that I'm going to be purchasing. I'm definitely looking for a Fat Man holster, and I'm going to get me one of those American as fuck flags. So
definitely.
Absolutely. Well, if you don't mind holding on, we'll go and throw our exit out, and then I'll chat with you a little bit when we go off the line. All right.
Sounds good.
You guys take care, man. Everybody, thanks for watching. Join us every Wednesday. Y'all take care. And most importantly, be safe.